What if the food you've trusted your whole life, the one you've added to salads, sandwiches, and stews, is quietly contributing to your joint pain? Imagine waking up every morning with stiffness in your knees, a dull ache in your fingers, or soreness in your lower back, and assuming it's just part of getting older. But what if it isn't just aging? What if something you're eating, something that seems healthy and harmless, is actually fueling the inflammation in your joints? There's one fruit in particular that many of us eat almost daily without giving it a second thought. It's rich in color, full of flavor, and loaded with vitamins. But for some people, especially those over 60 with sensitive immune systems or a history of arthritis, this fruit could be making things worse. The surprising culprit? The tomato. Yes, tomatoes are packed with nutrients, but they also belong to a group of plants known as nightshades, which contain a natural chemical called solanine. And in certain individuals, solanine can trigger or worsen joint inflammation, leading to stiffness, swelling, and lingering pain that never quite seems to go away. You might think it's just aging, but your body could actually be reacting to what's on your plate. In today's video, we're going to explore the fascinating link between tomatoes and joint pain. We'll talk about what solanine does inside the body, why some people are more sensitive to it, and how you can figure out whether this fruit might be hurting or helping you. If you've tried everything, medications, creams, exercises, and your joints still feel stiff and achy, this could be the piece of the puzzle you've been missing. I know you are a person who likes to watch videos quietly. If you have not liked and subscribed to the channel, now is a good time to do it, because you are a kind person. If the video is helpful, press 1. If the video is not good enough or needs improvement, press 2. Thanks everyone. Now let's get started. Number 1, the surprising truth about tomatoes and joint pain. Mrs. Elaine, 72, had always been proud of her eating habits. She avoided processed foods, stayed hydrated, and filled her plate with colorful fruits and vegetables. Among her favorites were tomatoes. Whether sliced fresh in her lunchtime salad, blended into soups, or baked into her famous vegetable casserole, they were bright, juicy, flavorful, and rich in nutrients. To her, tomatoes were the very symbol of health. But over time, something strange began to happen. She started waking up with stiffness in her fingers that lasted longer than usual. Her knees ached when she climbed the stairs, and by evening her hands felt swollen and sore. She chalked it up to aging and mild arthritis. But when her daughter mentioned something she'd read about tomatoes being a potential trigger for joint pain in some people, Elaine laughed it off. "Tomatoes? They're supposed to be good for you," she said. Still, curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to try eliminating them for 2 weeks. She wasn't expecting anything, but by the end of the second week, she noticed a change. Her morning stiffness had eased, and her hands didn't throb by dinner time. That's when she began to ask the question, could these healthy little red fruits actually be hurting her? Tomatoes are often celebrated for their high vitamin C, potassium, folate, and antioxidant content, especially lycopene, which is known to support heart health and reduce oxidative stress. However, tomatoes also belong to a specific group of plants known as nightshades, a family that includes potatoes, eggplants, peppers, and other common vegetables. Nightshades contain alkaloid compounds, and one in particular, solanine, has been studied for its potential inflammatory effects on the human body. While solanine is not harmful in small amounts for most people, some individuals, particularly those with autoimmune conditions or inflammatory joint diseases like arthritis, may have a heightened sensitivity. In these individuals, solanine can act as a mild irritant, triggering or worsening inflammation in the joints and connective tissue, especially when consumed frequently. This reaction is not considered a true allergy, and it doesn't affect everyone. That's part of what makes it so easy to overlook. People assume that if something is healthy, it must be universally good. But as we age, our bodies change. The immune system becomes more reactive, digestion slows down, and food sensitivities that didn't exist before can begin to surface. What once nourished us may now be contributing to silent discomfort, inflammation, and pain. For some, tomatoes are perfectly harmless. For others, they may be adding stress to an already inflamed body. Mrs. Elaine's experience is not unique. Many older adults have begun to notice similar patterns, not only with tomatoes, but with other nightshades as well. It starts subtly, a bit of joint stiffness here, an ache that won't go away there. Over-the-counter painkillers don't work like they used to. Physical therapy helps, but the soreness comes back. It's frustrating and confusing, especially when you're trying to eat well. But once the link between nightshades and joint inflammation is recognized, it opens up a new path for healing. For Elaine, that meant swapping fresh tomatoes for roasted carrots in her salads, using beet puree instead of tomato sauce in her pasta, and choosing anti-inflammatory herbs like turmeric and ginger to add flavor to her meals. She didn't feel deprived. She felt empowered because her body finally started feeling better. It's important to understand that not everyone needs to give up tomatoes. But if you're over 60 and living with persistent joint pain, it may be worth taking a closer look at your diet. You don't need a complicated test, just a bit of observation. Try going without tomatoes for 2 to 3 weeks. Keep a daily journal of how your joints feel, how you sleep, and how mobile you are. Then reintroduce tomatoes slowly and see what happens. Your body is always speaking to you, and sometimes the food that's hurting you is the one you've trusted the most. In the next part of this video, we'll dive deeper into the larger family that tomatoes belong to, the nightshades, and explore how other vegetables you may be eating every day could also be contributing to joint inflammation, especially if your body has become more sensitive with age. Number 2, what are nightshades and why they matter? When Mr. Glenn, 76, first heard the term nightshades, he thought it sounded like something from a gardening show or an old mystery novel. "I thought it had to do with plants that only grow at night," he joked. But when his rheumatologist mentioned nightshades during a discussion about his joint pain, Glenn leaned in with interest. It turned out that several of the vegetables he ate every single week, tomatoes, bell peppers, eggplant, and white potatoes, were all part of this group. He had no idea they shared something in common, and certainly no idea that they could be affecting his body's ability to manage inflammation. Like many people his age, he had spent most of his life believing that vegetables were good in all forms. But what he learned next changed the way he approached food forever. Nightshades, or Solanaceae, are a family of plants that includes many common fruits and vegetables. Some of the most well-known nightshades are tomatoes, white potatoes, not sweet potatoes, eggplant, bell peppers, hot chili peppers, paprika, cayenne, and even tobacco. While these plants vary widely in appearance and taste, they share certain chemical compounds, most notably alkaloids such as solanine, capsaicin, and nicotine, in the case of tobacco. These natural chemicals serve as a defense mechanism for the plants, protecting them from insects and predators. But in some people, especially those with inflammatory conditions, autoimmune diseases, or joint sensitivity, these same compounds can trigger unwanted reactions. Solanine, in particular, is often discussed in relation to joint pain and inflammation. It is found in varying amounts throughout nightshade vegetables, especially in the skins, seeds, and any parts of the plant that are green or unripe. In healthy individuals, small amounts of solanine are processed without issue. But for a subset of people, solanine can irritate the digestive tract and stimulate the immune system, leading to mild to moderate inflammation. Over time, this can manifest as joint stiffness, muscle aches, digestive discomfort, or generalized fatigue, symptoms that are often brushed off as just getting older. Another common alkaloid, capsaicin, gives chili peppers their heat. While it's often used in topical creams for joint pain, when consumed in large amounts through spicy food, it can aggravate sensitive tissues in some individuals. The takeaway is that while these compounds aren't toxic in the way we usually think of harmful substances, they can be problematic for certain people, especially those over 60 with a long history of joint issues or autoimmune challenges. Mr. Glenn started doing his own research. He discovered that many people in arthritis support groups had experimented with removing nightshades from their diet and reported noticeable improvement in symptoms. He didn't want to give up his favorite foods, but he decided to try a 30-day experiment. He eliminated all nightshades, no tomatoes, no potatoes, no peppers, and focused instead on leafy greens, sweet potatoes, squash, carrots, and lean proteins. Within 2 weeks, the aching in his hands began to ease. His morning stiffness wasn't gone, but it no longer slowed him down. After a full month, he reintroduced tomatoes for one day, and by the next morning, his knuckles were swollen again. It wasn't scientific proof, but to Glenn, it was clear enough. His body didn't do well with nightshades. It's important to remember that nightshades aren't bad. In fact, they offer many health benefits for people who tolerate them well. Tomatoes are high in antioxidants. Peppers are loaded with vitamin C. Potatoes provide fiber and energy. But as we age, our tolerance for certain compounds can shift. What nourished us at 40 may burden us at 70. That's why listening to your body is key, especially if you're living with joint pain, autoimmune disease, or inflammation that doesn't respond to medication. If you've never heard of nightshades before, or you've never considered their connection to your symptoms, it may be worth exploring. Not with fear or restriction, but with curiosity. Try removing them for a few weeks and see how your body responds. If nothing changes, you can bring them back with confidence. But if you feel better, if your mornings are easier, your hands less swollen, your energy steadier, you may have just discovered a gentle, natural way to reduce inflammation and reclaim a little more comfort in your daily life. In the next part of this video, we'll explore the science behind how solanine and other alkaloids actually work in the body and why some people are more sensitive to them than others. You'll learn what researchers know and what you can do to protect your joints without relying on guesswork. Number 3, how solanine affects the body's inflammatory response. When Mrs. Dolores, age 74, first heard about solanine, she thought it sounded like the name of a medication, not something hiding inside her kitchen. She had been struggling with chronic joint pain in her hands and knees for years, even though her test for arthritis kept coming back normal. Her doctors were kind but puzzled. She had tried medications, physical therapy, and dietary supplements, but nothing brought long-term relief. One day, while reading an article about inflammation and diet, she came across the word solanine. It was described as a naturally occurring compound found in tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and peppers, vegetables she ate nearly every day. The article claimed that for some people, solanine could contribute to chronic inflammation. Curious and a little desperate, she decided to dig deeper. Solanine is part of a group of chemical compounds called glycoalkaloids, which are naturally produced by plants in the nightshade family as a defense mechanism against insects and animals. In large amounts, solanine can be toxic, but the levels present in foods like tomatoes or potatoes are well below the threshold for toxicity. However, toxicity is not the issue here. What matters for people like Mrs. Dolores is sensitivity, the body's immune reaction to solanine, even in small, non-toxic amounts. In certain individuals, solanine can irritate the gut lining, subtly increasing intestinal permeability, sometimes referred to as leaky gut. When this happens, small particles that should stay within the digestive tract can pass into the bloodstream, where the immune system recognizes them as invaders. This can spark an inflammatory response that doesn't stay confined to the gut. Instead, it can affect joints, muscles, and even the nervous system. For people with existing joint issues, autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, or heightened immune sensitivity due to age, solanine might act like a match in dry grass, igniting inflammation that builds slowly but lingers stubbornly. Research on solanine in inflammation is still ongoing, and scientists haven't reached a universal conclusion. But what they do agree on is that solanine can stimulate the release of certain cytokines, chemical messengers that tell the immune system to turn up the heat. In a healthy body, this process is useful for fighting infection or healing injury, but in a body already dealing with chronic inflammation or a weakened immune balance, this added stimulation may worsen existing symptoms. such as joint pain, swelling, stiffness, and fatigue. For seniors especially, the body's ability to regulate inflammation becomes more fragile with age. What might have gone unnoticed at 45 can become a major source of discomfort at 70. Solanine doesn't cause inflammation in everyone, but for those who are sensitive to it, even mildly, its effect can be like turning up the volume on a radio that's already too loud. That's why some people experience relief just days after removing nightshades from their meals, while others notice changes more gradually over weeks. Mrs. Dolores kept a food and symptom journal. She stopped eating tomatoes, white potatoes, and peppers for 1 month. Within 2 weeks, her joint pain lessened, not dramatically, but noticeably. The tightness in her hands began to ease, and she no longer dreaded going down the stairs in the morning. When she reintroduced a tomato-based pasta sauce into her dinner one weekend, she woke up the next morning with swelling in her knuckles and a dull ache in her wrists. That was all the confirmation she needed. While she didn't eliminate nightshades forever, she became mindful of how often and in what quantities she consumed them. That awareness gave her the power to manage her pain naturally, not by fear, but by observation and choice. The takeaway here is not that solanine is dangerous, but that your body's response to it might be different now than it was 10 or 20 years ago. And if you've been living with pain that has no clear explanation, especially joint pain that comes and goes with no pattern, it's worth considering that food might be part of the puzzle. Your body is not betraying you. It's trying to protect you, but sometimes in doing so, it reacts to things that were once harmless. Listening closely to how your body responds to the foods you eat is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health after 60. In the next section, we'll move from theory to real life and share stories of people just like you who discovered their joint pain was linked to certain foods and what happened when they made small but powerful changes in their daily meals. Number 4, real stories. When healthy eating makes you hurt. For years, Mr. Richard, 69, took pride in being the healthy one in his family. While his friends and siblings leaned into fast food and frozen dinners, Richard stuck to fresh vegetables, whole grains, and lean meats. His morning omelets were full of bell peppers and tomatoes from his garden. At lunch, he'd enjoy a baked potato with salsa or a tomato-based soup. And in the evenings, there was always a salad with slices of bright red tomatoes drizzled in olive oil. He believed with good reason that eating clean would help him age gracefully. But around his mid-60s, he started feeling a strange tightness in his hands. It wasn't debilitating, but it was frustrating. Buttons became harder to fasten. Turning a doorknob required extra effort. He shrugged it off at first, but the discomfort didn't go away. It slowly crept into his knees and shoulders. And then, after raking leaves in the yard one fall afternoon, he woke up the next day feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. Achy, swollen, and stiff all over. Richard's doctor ran all the usual tests: arthritis panel, blood work, imaging. Everything came back within normal range. Mild osteoarthritis, the doctor said, just part of aging. Richard left feeling both relieved and confused. If it was just aging, why did it feel like it came and went depending on the week? Why did some days feel almost pain-free, while others left him exhausted and inflamed? Determined to get answers, Richard began doing his own research. That's when he stumbled on a small arthritis support group online where members were discussing something called nightshades. He learned that tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, and eggplants, some of his favorite vegetables, contained a compound called solanine that could trigger inflammation in sensitive individuals. Skeptical but curious, he decided to test the theory for himself. He removed all nightshades from his diet for 3 weeks. It wasn't easy. Salsa, sauces, soups, even his beloved breakfast omelet had to change. But by the end of the second week, something surprising happened. He woke up and realized his hands didn't feel stiff. His knees didn't crack as loudly when he stood up. He could twist open a jar without wincing. The changes were subtle but real. After the 3rd week, he tried adding tomatoes back in, just a few slices in a salad. And the next day, the stiffness returned. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to get his attention. It was like my body was finally speaking clearly, he said, and I was finally listening. Stories like Richard's are more common than you might think. especially among older adults who eat healthy by traditional standards but still suffer from unexplained inflammation. There's the case of Mrs. Paula, 75, who eliminated nightshades after struggling with hip pain for years and was able to cancel her scheduled cortisone shots. Or Harold, 68, who had given up gardening because his hands hurt too much, but returned to it joyfully once he removed bell peppers from his meals. These aren't miracle cures or magical diets. They're simply examples of people paying attention to their bodies and making informed choices based on how they feel, not just what they've been told is healthy. What these real-life stories teach us is that nutrition is not one size fits all. A food that helps one person heal might cause another person harm. And just because something is nutritious on paper doesn't mean it works for your unique biochemistry, especially as you age. Your immune system changes, your digestion changes, and what your body tolerates in your 40s may no longer be suitable in your 60s or 70s. The beautiful part is, you don't need a diagnosis or a lab test to start discovering what works for you. All it takes is curiosity, a little trial and error, and a willingness to notice how your body responds. If you're someone who's been eating clean, but still feels stiff, achy, or fatigued, perhaps it's time to take a closer look at your meals. You don't have to give up your favorite foods forever, but even just pausing certain ingredients and observing the difference can be a life-changing step. In the next part of this video, we'll talk about the common symptoms that may be linked to nightshade sensitivity, even if you've never been officially diagnosed with arthritis or any other inflammatory disease. These signs are often subtle, but they may be your body's quiet way of asking for change. Number 5, common symptoms that might be triggered by tomatoes. For many older adults, the signs of food-related inflammation are not loud or obvious. They don't always show up as dramatic allergic reactions or severe digestive distress. Instead, they creep in slowly. A little stiffness here, a little swelling there, until one day you look back and realize you're not moving the way you used to. And one of the biggest challenges is that these symptoms often mimic normal signs of aging, making them easy to overlook, excuse, or ignore. But when you start paying closer attention, patterns begin to emerge. And in many of these cases, tomatoes, a staple in so many diets, may be quietly contributing to the discomfort. One of the most common symptoms is persistent joint stiffness, especially in the morning. You wake up and your fingers feel like they've forgotten how to move. Your knees don't want to bend right away, and your back takes time to unlock. You stretch, maybe take a hot shower, and eventually the stiffness fades. But it returns day after day. Many people assume this is just part of getting older, and to some extent that's true. But when that stiffness begins to affect your ability to do basic tasks or seems to flare up after certain meals, it might be time to question the role of what you're eating. Another frequent complaint is low-grade swelling in the hands, wrists, or ankles. You may notice rings fitting tighter than usual, shoes feeling snug at the end of the day, or socks leaving deeper marks on your skin. While swelling can have many causes, from circulation issues to medications, inflammation from food sensitivities is an often overlooked trigger. For people sensitive to nightshades like tomatoes, the body can respond with mild immune activation, causing soft tissue around joints to swell and feel tender, especially after meals. Then there's the issue of nagging, dull joint pain. Not the sharp, stabbing pain of an acute injury, but a constant, weary ache that seems to settle into your body and never quite leaves. For some, it's in the fingers. For others, it's in the knees, shoulders, or lower back. This kind of pain is frustrating because it isn't always visible or measurable, and tests may come back normal. But that doesn't mean it's imaginary. If your body's reacting to something in your diet, like solanine in tomatoes, it could be quietly stoking inflammation that wears on your joints over time. Some people experience reduced mobility or tightness in their range of motion. For example, you might find it harder to reach behind you, kneel down, or twist at the waist. Again, this can be attributed to aging or inactivity, but when it happens alongside other symptoms like stiffness, swelling, or fatigue, it becomes part of a pattern. And when these symptoms ease after removing tomatoes or other nightshades from your diet, it's worth paying attention. A lesser-known symptom is fatigue and brain fog, a kind of mental cloudiness and physical sluggishness that makes it hard to focus or stay energized throughout the day. While this might seem unrelated to joint pain, it's actually part of the bigger picture of systemic inflammation. When the body is constantly fighting off something it perceives as a threat, like a food sensitivity, the immune system stays active, which drains energy and can affect everything from mood to memory. For some people, especially those already dealing with chronic pain, this subtle but constant immune activation can make everyday life feel more exhausting than it should be. Of course, not everyone who eats tomatoes will experience these symptoms, and not everyone with joint pain is sensitive to solanine. But the point is to recognize that your body's signals are valid, and sometimes the symptoms we dismiss as just aging are actually our body's way of asking for help. You don't need a medical diagnosis to begin experimenting. All it takes is curiosity and a bit of patience. Try removing tomatoes from your meals for 2 to 3 weeks. During that time, keep a simple journal. Write down how your joints feel in the morning, how much energy you have during the day, how your hands or knees respond to walking, gardening, or household chores. Then, after that trial period, reintroduce tomatoes and see what happens. If the symptoms return, even slightly, you may have found a valuable clue in your journey toward better health. Mrs. Linda, 70, shared her story in an arthritis forum. She removed tomatoes on a whim, not really expecting anything, but within 10 days the swelling in her knuckles decreased. Her walking improved. She didn't feel cured, but she felt better. "I had no idea my salad was working against me," she said, and like so many others, her relief came not from a pill, but from listening to her body and making a simple shift. In the next part of this video, we'll talk about who should consider reducing or avoiding tomatoes, the specific groups of people most likely to benefit from making this dietary change, and how to know if you might be one of them. Number 6, who should consider reducing or avoiding tomatoes? Mr. Harold, 73, had always considered himself lucky when it came to health. He wasn't on any major medications, had never broken a bone, and tried his best to stay active. But in the last 2 years, he'd started to feel off. His knees ached on cold mornings, his hands stiffened more than usual when peeling vegetables, and he found himself reaching for the ibuprofen bottle more than he liked to admit. His doctor ran the usual tests, ruled out rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune issues, and suggested light stretching and over-the-counter pain relief. But something didn't sit right. Harold began keeping a journal, tracking everything from his pain levels to his meals, and soon noticed something unexpected. On days after eating tomato-based soups, pasta sauces, or even raw tomatoes in a sandwich, his stiffness seemed to flare more than usual. That pattern, small but consistent, led him to a simple but powerful question. Could tomatoes be affecting me more than I thought? The truth is, while tomatoes are a healthy food for many, they may not be ideal for everyone, especially people over 60 whose bodies have become more sensitive to dietary triggers. So who exactly should consider reducing or avoiding them? Let's take a closer look at the types of people most likely to benefit from a break from tomatoes and other nightshades. First, if you have any form of chronic joint pain, whether or not it's been formally diagnosed as arthritis, you might be a good candidate for a tomato-free trial. Joint pain that is persistent, flares unpredictably, or seems to worsen after certain meals could be your body's way of responding to a food sensitivity, one that might not show up on blood tests but still affects your quality of life. You don't need a diagnosis to take control of your health. Simply observing how your body responds to removing tomatoes for a few weeks can provide clarity that no lab result ever will. Second, those with autoimmune conditions, such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or inflammatory bowel disease, may be more sensitive to compounds like solanine found in tomatoes. In these individuals, the immune system is already in a state of high alert, often attacking healthy tissues. Introducing compounds that mildly irritate the body can exacerbate that process. While tomatoes aren't inherently bad, the body may interpret them as just one more stressor in an already overactive system. Reducing or eliminating them may help lower overall inflammation and give the immune system a chance to settle down. Third, if you've ever felt that your medications are no longer working as well as they used to, particularly for managing joint pain or inflammation, it may be time to look beyond pills and explore what's happening in your diet. Medications can only do so much if you're unknowingly eating foods that are inflaming your system every day. Think of it like trying to put out a fire while continuing to pour a little gasoline on it at the same time. Sometimes what you remove from your plate matters just as much as what you add. Fourth, if you've tried everything else, stretching, supplements, massage, and medication, and your pain still feels like a mystery, tomatoes and other nightshades could be the missing piece. Many seniors find themselves stuck in a frustrating loop of trying various treatments without lasting relief, when in reality, the solution might be hiding in plain sight. A simple dietary experiment, free of cost and side effects, may reveal more than months of appointments and prescriptions. Lastly, if you are someone who experiences digestive sensitivity, such as bloating, acid reflux, or discomfort after eating spicy or acidic foods, tomatoes could be a double-edged sword. Not only are they part of the nightshade family, but they are also naturally acidic, which can irritate the gut lining, especially in older adults whose digestive systems may have become more delicate over time. This irritation can lead to a cascade of issues, including low-level inflammation that affects the joints, muscles, and even cognitive clarity. It's important to note that you don't need to eliminate tomatoes forever. The goal is not restriction for the sake of restriction. It's about learning what your body responds best to now, in this season of your life. Our bodies are not static. What worked in your 30s or 40s may not serve you in your 60s or 70s. Aging isn't a decline, it's an evolution. And with evolution comes the need for awareness and adaptation. Mr. Harold didn't give up tomatoes entirely, he just became mindful. He learned that he could enjoy a tomato-based dish once or twice a month without issue, but having it daily, in his sandwiches, stews, and salads, tipped the scales toward discomfort. That shift in awareness gave him power. He wasn't guessing anymore. He was choosing, based on what made his body feel best. So if you see yourself in any of these categories, if you're living with pain that doesn't make sense, or if you're tired of trying everything with limited results, consider giving tomatoes a rest. Not because they're bad, but because your body might be asking for something different now. And when you give your body what it's truly asking for, even in small ways, it often responds with more ease, more strength, and more freedom than you expected. In the next part of this video, we'll explore what you can eat instead. Delicious anti-inflammatory alternatives to tomatoes that still bring flavor, color, and joy to your meals without putting extra strain on your joints. Number 7, what to eat instead. Anti-inflammatory alternatives. When Mrs. Clara, 71, realized that tomatoes were contributing to her daily joint pain, her first reaction wasn't relief, it was panic. Tomatoes had been a staple in her diet for decades. She added them to her salads, stirred them into her soups, layered them in sandwiches, and relied on tomato-based sauces for pasta, rice, and countless other dishes. If I stop eating tomato, she thought, what's left? But what she soon discovered is something many people learn after giving up a long-time favorite food, that sometimes removing one ingredient opens the door to discovering a whole new world of flavor and nourishment. Not only did her body start to feel better, but her meals became more diverse, colorful, and exciting. The key was focusing not on what she was giving up, but on what she could add in its place. So what can you eat instead of tomatoes, especially if you're trying to reduce inflammation and support joint health? The good news is that there are plenty of delicious, nutritious, and anti-inflammatory alternatives that can take the place of tomatoes in nearly every recipe, without compromising taste or satisfaction. Let's start with sauces. One of the most common uses for tomatoes is in pasta sauces, stews, and casseroles. Mrs. Clara found a surprisingly rich and satisfying alternative by using roasted red bell peppers, blended with garlic, olive oil, and a splash of balsamic vinegar. The result? A smooth, slightly sweet, deeply flavorful sauce that pairs beautifully with pasta, grains, or grilled chicken. For added creaminess, she sometimes blends in steamed carrots or a spoonful of cooked butternut squash. These vegetables not only offer color and depth, but they also bring powerful anti-inflammatory nutrients like beta-carotene, vitamin C, and fiber, all of which support immune health and reduce oxidative stress in the joints. For raw applications, like salads or sandwiches, sliced cooked beets or roasted red peppers make an excellent substitute for fresh tomatoes. They provide that juicy, colorful element many people love in a fresh tomato without the acidity or solanine content. Beets in particular are known for supporting circulation and reducing inflammation. You can also try sliced avocado for creaminess or thin-cut cucumber or zucchini ribbons for a fresh, hydrating crunch. These swaps not only help you avoid potential triggers, but also add variety and vibrancy to your meals. If you're looking to replace tomato-based condiments, there are plenty of options. For ketchup, try a mix of cooked carrots, apple cider vinegar, and a touch of maple syrup, blended until smooth. For salsa, try mango or pineapple salsas made with chopped fruit, onion, cilantro, and lime. Bright, tangy, and completely nightshade-free. Even marinara sauces can be recreated with a base of pureed roasted vegetables, like carrots, onions, and squash, spiced with oregano, basil, garlic, and a hint of lemon for acidity. When it comes to seasoning, many people are surprised to learn that paprika and chili powder, common pantry staples, are also part of the nightshade family. If you're avoiding these as well, consider using anti-inflammatory spices like turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, and garlic powder. Not only are they flavorful, but many have been studied for their natural ability to reduce inflammation, improve circulation, and support healthy joints. Turmeric, especially when paired with black pepper, has been shown to help ease joint pain in people with arthritis, making it a smart addition to soups, stews, and even warm teas. Another powerful strategy is to emphasize healthy fats in your meals, like olive oil, flaxseed oil, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish. These fats nourish your joints from the inside out, reduce inflammation at the cellular level, and help your body absorb key vitamins and minerals. A drizzle of olive oil over roasted vegetables, a handful of walnuts in your salad, or a serving of grilled salmon twice a week can make a real difference in how your joints feel and how much you enjoy your food. Mrs. Clara now says that changing the way she cooked wasn't a burden, it was a blessing. It opened her up to ingredients she had never thought to use and flavors she never knew she loved. Most importantly, it gave her something she hadn't felt in years: relief. She could move more freely. Her mornings started with ease instead of discomfort, and she no longer dreaded everyday tasks like walking downstairs or holding a pen for too long. "I didn't just change my food," she said. "I changed my future." The bottom line is this: you don't have to feel deprived if you choose to reduce or remove tomatoes from your diet. There is life after tomatoes, and it can be delicious, nourishing, and deeply satisfying. By embracing variety and focusing on whole, anti-inflammatory foods, you can support your joints, protect your energy, and enjoy eating again, all while giving your body the peace it's been asking for. In the next part of the video, we'll talk about how to track your body's response to foods, including simple steps for identifying what helps and what hurts, so you can build a personalized diet that truly works for you. Number 8, how to track your body's response to foods. When Mr. James turned 70, he noticed something frustrating. Some days he woke up feeling energetic and ready to take on the world. Other days he felt like he had aged 10 years overnight, with stiff joints, brain fog, and a dragging fatigue he couldn't explain. He was eating healthy, exercising gently, and taking his medications as prescribed. But the inconsistency puzzled him. Then his daughter suggested something simple but powerful. "Dad, what if it's something you're eating?" At first he resisted the idea. After all, he wasn't eating junk food. But when he gave it some thought, he realized he had never really paid attention to how specific foods made him feel. only whether they were healthy or not. That's when he began an experiment that changed the way he looked at food forever. One of the most empowering things you can do for your health, especially as you age, is to become your own observer. Your body speaks to you every day. It tells you when something feels good, when something's off, and when it needs support. The key is learning how to listen. And the most effective way to do that is through a practice called food tracking. Not counting calories or weighing portions, but simply connecting what you eat to how you feel. Start with a simple food and symptom journal. All you need is a notebook or piece of paper, or even a small app on your phone if you're comfortable with technology. Each day, write down what you eat and drink. Just basic descriptions like scrambled eggs and toast, chicken soup, or garden salad with tomatoes. You don't need to record every detail or measure servings unless you want to. Then, a few hours later, or at the end of the day, jot down how you felt. Did your joints feel more stiff or more flexible than usual? Did you have more or less energy? How was your digestion, your mood, your sleep that night? At first, this might feel too subtle to notice, but within a few days, or certainly within a couple of weeks, patterns often begin to appear. You may realize that every time you eat tomato-based meals, your knees ache the next morning, or that bell peppers make your fingers feel tight by evening. You may even discover unexpected triggers or helpful foods that make you feel more vibrant. What's important is that you're tuning in, and that in doing so, you're learning something no doctor or test can tell you: how your unique body reacts to real life. For best results, try doing a 2 to 3 week elimination of nightshades, which includes tomatoes, white potatoes, eggplants, and peppers. During this time, stick to anti-inflammatory alternatives, stay hydrated, and continue tracking how you feel. Be patient and kind with yourself. This isn't a strict diet or punishment. It's a short, gentle experiment to gather information. After the elimination phase, you can begin reintroducing foods one at a time, ideally waiting 2 to 3 days between each one. For example, add tomatoes back into your salad and note how you feel that evening in the next day. Any increase in stiffness, fatigue, swelling, or pain may be your body's way of saying, "This isn't helping me right now." Mr. James followed this method and was amazed at what he discovered. Tomatoes, which he'd eaten for years without a second thought, were causing his morning stiffness and cloudy thinking. Potatoes didn't seem to affect him, but bell peppers did. With this knowledge, he didn't need to cut out everything forever. He simply adjusted, enjoying his favorite foods in moderation and leaning more heavily on alternatives that supported his well-being. "I stopped guessing," he said, and that made all the difference. What makes this practice so powerful is that you become the expert on your own body. No doctor can feel what you feel, and while lab tests and medical advice are invaluable, they work best when paired with personal insight. Food tracking helps you take the mystery out of your symptoms. It gives you data, and from that data, you can make choices, not based on fear or restriction, but based on what helps you feel better, move better, and live more fully. If you've been struggling with ongoing inflammation, pain, or discomfort, and you're tired of guessing, this is your chance to start listening in a new way. Your body isn't broken. It's just asking you to notice. And once you do, you may be surprised how quickly it begins to thank you. In the final part of this video, we'll bring all of this together, from understanding solanine and nightshades to recognizing symptoms and trying new foods, and show you how small changes today can protect your joints, energy, and independence for the years ahead. Conclusion. After everything we've explored in this video, the science of solanine, the reality of nightshades, the subtle signals from your joints, and the personal stories of people just like you, one truth stands out clearly. Your body is always communicating with you. The stiffness, the swelling, the morning aches that seem to linger longer than they should. These aren't just signs of aging. They might be gentle nudges from your body, asking you to take a closer look at what's going in, not just what's going on. Tomatoes, for many people, are a healthy and delicious part of life. They're rich in vitamins, antioxidants, and flavor. But as we age, our bodies change. Our immune system becomes more reactive, our digestion slows down, and foods that once nourished us may no longer serve us in the same way. That doesn't mean we've done something wrong. It simply means it's time to listen more carefully. You've seen now how tomatoes and other nightshades, while not harmful to most, can quietly contribute to inflammation and joint pain in some individuals, especially those over 60 who are already navigating arthritis, autoimmune issues, or unexplained stiffness. And the most empowering part is this: you don't need a fancy test or a long list of restrictions to find clarity. All it takes is awareness, curiosity, and the courage to make small changes. You've learned how to track your body's response, how to test foods in a thoughtful way, and how to substitute with equally flavorful anti-inflammatory ingredients. You've seen that a simple change, like swapping out tomato sauce for roasted red pepper puree, or skipping raw tomatoes in your salad for beets or avocado, can lead to unexpected and powerful relief. Relief not just from physical pain, but from frustration, uncertainty, and the feeling that your health is slipping out of your hands. This journey isn't about perfection. It's not about banning a food forever or fearing what's on your plate. It's about building a relationship with your body that's rooted in respect and attention. You've lived long enough to know that the little things matter. And when it comes to your health, sometimes the smallest changes, like paying attention to one fruit, one meal, one morning stiffness, can make the biggest difference. So if something you heard today sparked a question in your mind or reminded you of a pain you've been ignoring, I encourage you, try the experiment. Remove tomatoes for 2 to 3 weeks. Listen to your body, track your days, and above all, trust what you discover. You might be surprised by how much better you can feel with just a few thoughtful adjustments. Your body hasn't given up on you. It's simply waiting for you to pay attention. And now that you know how, you're already one step closer to moving more freely, waking up with less pain, and reclaiming the comfort, energy, and independence you deserve. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, consider sharing it with someone you care about. These conversations matter, because health after 60 is not just about living longer, but about living better. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind to your body, and remember, healing often begins with listening. We really appreciate you spending time with us today. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. It's a simple way to support our work, and it helps more people discover the tips they need to live healthier, happier lives. And if you want to stay up to date, just click the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. See you again soon.